Imagine you're having a pleasant hike through the forest with 3 of your best friends and your dog. It's a clear autumn day and you are looking for a brief escape from the anxieties back home. You're in a forest that's rumored to hold secret tunnels with promises of buried treasure. You happen upon a small hole in the depression of an uprooted tree. Sure to discover treasure, or at least an X-File, you and your friends immediately begin to investigate. After throwing some rocks down, one of you volunteers the first descent, unwittingly to be the first person to lay eyes on innumerable priceless artifacts that have remained buried for tens of thousands of years. This happened to 4 young boys and their dog in 1940 in Dordogne, France. Marcel, Jacques, Georges, Simon, and their dog, Robot. They discovered a massive cavern that contained 17,000-year-old cave paintings in what is now called the Lascaux Cave. They first entered into what is called the Hall of Bulls, in which by the light of their oil lantern they could swear the bulls moved with the shadows. Over 2,000 figures from the cave have been catalogued. The majority are animals, with only a few examples of humans represented. One of these is called the Birdman, which is a human stick figure but with a pointed head. Some speculate that this represents a shaman or a hunter in a headdress. There are anthropologists who believe the cave was inspired by hallucinogens, or that these paintings were part of a pre-hunting ritual, or maybe they were a post-hunt list of success. We know so little about these people, so almost everything is speculation at best. We will probably never know who or what the Birdman is, or what inspired these people to make a grand subterranean Sistine Chapel. Just kidding, this is a selfie from when I time traveled. One of the more bizarre human-like figures from that era is called the Sorcerer, which is a strange deer man. Paintings like the ones these young men discovered in 1940 are peppered across the world, usually found in sealed-off or very inaccessible caves. On a timescale dating back up to 40,000 years in the past, it's amazing that anything at all has survived long enough for modern science to analyze it. Combined with archaeological efforts, they still only offer us an extremely tiny window into the lives and culture of our ancestors. Mankind's earliest artwork, or at least the ones that have survived to this day, are almost entirely animal portraits. It should be noted that when humans started to include more detail in their art, moving away from the crude stick figures, it was a slow transition from animals to man, and we have a few examples of this. Some of the most pristinely preserved specimens are of animal-human hybrids. Most notably, and quite honestly one of my favorites, is the Lion Man of Holenstein-stadel. This 27-centimeter figure was found in Germany at the beginning of the Second World War. It was determined to be about 40,000 years old by carbon dating, and it was carved using a flintstone knife out of mammoth ivory. Mammoths! Because the figure is so old, it's impossible to tell why someone would have made it. Some theorists state that it could be a deity, but maybe it was a children's toy, or the totem of a family or a tribe. Or maybe it was someone's persona. Or maybe it's how someone feels on the inside. Because it's so old, it's possible humans didn't even make it. Our distant cousins, the Neanderthals, may be responsible for the Lion Man's creation. But probably not. I mean, those guys couldn't even figure out pants, right? I hope I didn't offend any Neanderthals viewing. In the south of France, there was this Minotaur-like woman discovered carefully hiding behind a stalagmite inside the Chevaux Cave. Chevaux Cave is one of the largest caves full of 30,000-year-old artwork and contains the oldest known human footprints preserved right on the floor. The female figure, referred to as the Bison Woman, features 2 obscured human legs with pronounced genitals, but then blends up into the head of a bison. Now this could be 2 separate figures, but we can never know, it's a mystery. Like the Lion Man, this artifact was discovered after the initial finding of the cave. We were so concerned with preserving the cave that elaborate networks of scaffolding were set up and the cave was atmospherically sealed, only allowing in a few researchers each year. It wasn't until a few years after the cave's discovery in 1994 that a film crew was allowed in and were able to photograph the Minotaur Woman using a crane system, giving us amazing HD and 3D footage of the stalagmite. Unfortunately, the Lascaux Cave, with the Hall of Bulls and the Birdman, didn't have a very happy ending. The cave those boys had discovered was initially exploited by them. They turned it into a tourist trap. They sold admission tickets to the locals who, upon visiting the site, tracked in a fungus that changed the air in the cave, ultimately causing the paintings to deteriorate. The cave was quickly closed to the public, and a mock cave was created for tourists looking to see the paintings. But because of this blunder, scientists recognized it was important to preserve the conditions that allowed these paintings to survive millennia, and allowing new discoveries, like the Chauveau Cave with its preserved footprints and the Bison Woman, to have minimal degradation upon their discovery. The Lascaux Cave was named a World Heritage Site in 1979. When do you think the first anthro art originated? Do you think we shouldn't qualify this art as anthro until later in our history? Let us know in the comments. For more information on cave art, this episode was inspired by The Cave of Forgotten Dreams, which you can watch for free here on YouTube. It was also inspired by the book The Cave Painters by Gregory Curtis, which tells the story of the Lascaux Cave and the young men who discovered it. Additional inspiration came from Carl Sagan and Andrew Yan's work, Shadows of Forgotten Ancestors. Culturally Apt this week was brought to you by Fire Good, and by these fluffy people. If you're a Neanderthal or some other distant cousin of Homo sapien, please hit subscribe and check out our other social media. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Some anthropologists believe that the artwork discussed in today's episode was religious in nature. Next week on Culturally Apt, we will look at ancient religions, namely ancient Greek and Egyptian pantheons, which feature some of everyone's favorite animal-headed gods.